Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about The Oval Portrait, written by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So, The Oval Portrait by Edgar Allan Poe, really interesting short story here. Lots of things are happening. Basically, we have this traveler. He gets refuge in an abandoned chateau. And it's a very eerie scene. The chateau is abandoned. It's dark. It's nighttime, and there's paintings and furniture, and the house is pretty old and creepy. And so it's definitely gothic and eerie within the chateau. And basically, the artist is like, I'm going to spend the night up reading. And, he starts to look around and he sees this oval portrait of a young lady. And when he starts to examining the portrait, he's like, this is a very interesting portrait. And he finds the story behind the portrait, why it's there, and what happened. Basically, he learns that there was an artist who lived there, who owned, this was his chateau and everything. And the portrait is of his wife, and it's an oval portrait of his wife, and the artist himself was the one that painted the portrait. And the portrait is very lifelike, and it's very beautiful, and it's really stunning. And when people see it, they're like, man, this is a great intersection between the artist's love for his wife and also his love for art. So this is where the artist combines his occupation with his romantic love to create a portrait so lifelike and beautiful. So it's really lovely, really romantic, but at the same time very deadly, because the artist is obsessed with, making a really beautiful picture, painting something really profound, and also expressing his love for his wife. But at the same time, the wife, she's not happy because she's like in the darkness, sitting every day, being painted, and she's the model. And every day she's sitting in the darkness while he's toiling to make this beautiful painting. She's just sitting in the darkness, just staring out into nothingness, because, maybe he's enjoying his time painting, but she's just sitting there still. So it's not really that much fun for her, even though the final outcome of the painting will be her portrait. Now, so pretty much the wife just keeps withering away. She's like a flower, and one way to describe women, in terms of beauty, in terms of what they represent to men, it's like a woman in many ways is a flower, basking in her beauty and all her aesthetics, right? And so she was very beautiful, very young. Her beauty was very unique, and the husband was just so heavily focused on the art. He was pretty much neglecting her. Yes, he loved her, and yes, she loved him. But when you neglect someone that you love and you don't spend time with them, you don't appreciate them, you don't take time to really because flowers, you have to tend to them, you have to take care of them, water them. They need sunlight, they need a lot of things to be flowers, to not wither away. And the husband pretty much, he focuses so much on the painting, and he's not paying attention to his wife, that she pretty much is more, the more and more he paints, the more and more she dies. And eventually, by the time he finishes the painting, um she falls and dies. And with the last stroke of the brush is the last stroke of life for her, and she dies right after. And so the portrait is done, but the artist loses his wife, and yeah, that's just how it ends. And yes, he has the painting, but the despair is there, and we can see the outcome of this is not good, because the traveler who's outside. So there's like two stories within one, right? You have an outer story and an inner story. The outer story is this traveler who takes refuge within this abandoned chateau, and the inner story is the story of the artist and his wife. So the narrator is like, wow, this is something that's very dark. And we can also see that, for the artist, things didn't end up well, because his chateau is abandoned, his house is abandoned, it's old and dark and gray, and things are not really being kept of. So it really ends very poorly for the artist and his wife, for the artist in the portrait, Because the oval portrait, yes, it is beautiful. It is a masterpiece. But in order for this masterpiece, this oval portrait to be created, there had to be sacrifices. And the sacrifice was the relationship of the artist and his wife. It was the love. The love died, the woman died, and the house went into decay and disrepair. And pretty much the portrait is just left in this abandoned chateau on its own for this narrator to look at. But really, no one is really truly appreciating this portrait because everybody's gone, and we're not even told what truly happened to the artist after everything. So we can just imagine that it's not good because everything is abandoned, including the oval portrait is just in the chateau alone. So the narrator that we stumble upon, he's just like, I'm going to take refuge here for the night, but here's some tragic tale I just stumbled upon. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis, there's a lot to take in here. There's a lot that's going on. I think that this is a lot about obsession. I think in life there's a lot of people who obsess over their occupation. You know, you're ambitious. You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, something significant in your life, and you will pretty much put everything on the back burner to focus on your career, your goals, your artistic passions. And sometimes that could lead to your own you forget about life, you forget about your loved ones, you forget about your friends, and you're so focused on achieving greatness and being great and being wonderful that everything else in life, you just skip it, right? You just put it to the side. And when it's all said and done, you're like, oh man, I missed out on life because I was just so focused on my ambitions, on my success in life, on my dream, that I sacrificed everything else. And this is something that more or less everybody experiences in life because a lot of people focus on their career, not their kids. A lot of people focus on their wife and not their job. So whatever your passion is in life, sometimes it could be anything. Whatever your passion is in life, sometimes maybe you focus it on it too much and you neglect everything else in your life, and then your life falls apart. Because this artist, he was so focused on his occupation that he neglected his wife to the point that the woman that he loved died right in front of his eyes. So that says a lot about that. But also, the title, The Oval Portrait. Yes, he did get a great portrait out of everything he went through. He did create a masterpiece, but at the same time, at what cost? So, in many ways, this story is saying a lot about is the sacrifice worth it for the things that we chase, for the things that we seek? Here's the things that you can lose when you're too obsessed with pursuing certain goals, and also you got to be aware of the things around you and what's happening around you and who you're neglecting, who you're not neglecting. Yeah, this is very gothic. There's some certain things that can lead us down a path that we think we're obsessed with it and we think it's going to be a good thing, but it's not. So this is definitely a reading that requires a lot of contemplation to really see what's going on beneath the surface, because the ending is quite chilling because the chateau is just abandoned and dark in the end. And somewhat, I have to say, it's kind of quite scary because the oval portrait, is somewhat alive if you think about it, because it's so unnerving that the narrator at some point, he didn't want to see it anymore because it was just so lifelike, and also the story behind it just made the oval portrait somewhat mysterious and scary, and even it tapped into the spiritual because it felt like there was some type of connection, some type of significant connection tied between the portrait, the artist, and his wife. So that definitely deserves a lot of thinking. But that's all I had to say about this work. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.